So, hello everyone, welcome to my podcast. And today I have Sarah Boland. She's actually my very first interviewee, and I'm just so honored that she was willing to do this. And yeah, I was really excited to learn about her. She wrote this really interesting article on LinkedIn where she talked about being destroyed by the dragons on Dragon's Den. And that really piqued my curiosity. So I read into it, and she talked about how she proposed this app that she came up with, and they gave her all sorts of feedback, a lot of negative feedback actually, but she seemed to really take it and make something out of it. And now she has a successful app today. So I thought, as she's a young adult and a young woman in the tech space, I was really inspired by that, and I wanted to reach out to her. So Sarah, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for your patience earlier on. You guys won't hear this, but there's a lot of random tech stuff that came up. So she's, yeah, been super gracious. And could you let us know what is your educational and career background before you got into all this?
Yeah, so my background is actually in filmmaking, so not tech related at all. I actually went to the Toronto Film School.
Awesome.
I've always been interested in photography and filmmaking, so I went to film school, and then basically after that, I dabbled in the film industry for a little bit. I wasn't too keen on watching pylons, because you have to basically be a production assistant for a while before you get to do any job of substance.
Wow.
So I actually ended up taking a job at a Canadian company called Clearly Contacts. They're now just known as Clearly. And basically they're an eyewear e-commerce shop. They're based in Vancouver. And I actually started out there taking photos, all the product photos of the glasses. So literally the 3 different angles of the glasses. I would just be taking hundreds of photos of glasses doing that. But yeah, taking photos of glasses, I wouldn't say is my true passion in life, but it got my foot in the door, and I basically carved out my my own role within the company. So I actually became a videographer and editor and producer type person in their marketing department. So that was really cool. It led me to New York Fashion Week. I got to go to Africa, and we did the partnership with Me to We, where we went and gave classes. So yeah, that was really awesome. And then actually I got laid off from that job.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Yes.
after all that.
Basically eliminated the video role, which was actually extremely devastating. I would say that was my second lowest point in my career after Dragon's Den.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But I do think, I've talked about this before openly, is when you get laid off, it's actually kind of comforting in a way, because I was just in this bubble with my friends, working 9 to 5 at this job that I loved.
Right.
I wanted to always grow my career. I didn't want to just be there. I talked to my managers what's next for me. But yeah, I don't think I would have never left that company, essentially. And they booted me out the door, and I found my next opportunity doing the same role at a different company called Nurse Next Door. They're they're Canadian franchising. They're also in the States. They franchise out home care franchises.
Yes.
So that was cool. I got to go to different. Basically I would go to clients' homes and get video testimonials and shoot and edit and do social media. So yeah, and then that's when I left that job to pursue Life Lapse.
Wow. Oh, that's such a diverse background too, and it's kind of cool that journey of yeah, create. It sounds like you were already creating opportunities within the opportunities you were given. You weren't just doing what they brought you in to do, but you kind of you were thinking outside the box, how can I make this more interesting? So I could see how, and if you find a good company, I could see how that's really devastating to leave. I myself am just coming out of an 8-month contract with a nice company too, but it was kind of yeah, they didn't have funding to keep me in. Yeah. still in good contact with them, but it's definitely a transition. And I
I
noticed
mean,
too.
yeah, they didn't give me any warning whatsoever. Like, there was no like,
Oh,
oh, you're not doing well, or like you're not a culture fit. I just like, I feel like I checked all the boxes, and like, I was always hosting events and like right in there with the company. And yeah, it was like very left field for me, which is why it was like so
wow.
devastating at the time. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
on to bigger and better things.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I was curious because you said you're from Toronto, and that's like, I would think like, well, obviously Vancouver too, but like Toronto definitely is like a business epicenter for Canada. And I was curious, like, what led you to Vancouver? Like, what other than like, was it just clearly contacts, or did you have a desire to check out the West Coast, or what led you to actually make such a move from one coast to the other?
Yeah. So I was working in Toronto after I was finished film school.
Hmm.
And honestly, I was just like, I was with my boyfriend at the time. We were working at this, like they were a video rental company. So if you had like a big production, you would come to this place and rent all their camera gear. So I would help prep those camera packages for like the cinematographers and all that stuff.
Right, right.
So, oh yeah, so they have another location in Vancouver. And one day I was
Oh,
just like fed up with it. I'm like, I'm sick of Toronto. Let's move to Vancouver. I'd actually never been to Vancouver. We bought a one-way
wow.
ticket and we just moved out here, and I basically haven't looked back since. That was 10 years ago.
10 years ago. So, are you loving it there? Like, do you like that city? Yeah,
Yes.
that's interesting because Vancouver is always my dream city, but I have more family in Toronto. But I was like, I feel like there's always like this like rivalry when I talk to people. Like, people either like Vancouver or they like Toronto. And so it's kind of interesting to hear. Yeah.
Toronto's really good if you're like more of a city person. I absolutely love like hiking and nature and being by the ocean and
Mm,
mountains. Um, and like all my family is still back home. Me and my husband, we actually don't have any family out here, which is
wow.
hard at times, but we make it work. And when we do, like my mom's coming out next week and we're like going to Tofino for 4 days. And I
Nice.
find even though, we don't get to have like breakfast or like, sorry, like dinner on Sundays together or whatever,
Hmm.
whatever week night of, yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah.
We are together, like I find that the quality of our hangouts is much better because we're not working, we're just like we're in vacation mode and we just have
Right.
a blast together. So
So true. It's like in the day to day, sometimes you don't actually talk that much. You're just coming and going from your work. So that's so true. And I have to ask, like, what led you into entering the tech world and app creating? Because, like, as I said before, as a young adult and as a young woman in tech, like, I was just so inspired that you did this. Like, what made you think one day, okay, I'm going to try this out?
yeah, I mean, when I did this, I never like thought, oh, I'm like a tech founder.
Hmm.
I've always done the side hustle thing throughout my career. I'm like very passionate about like developing my skills and like getting more experience and hopefully earning more money.
Mm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
so I had this app idea. It wasn't what Life Lapse is now. And so I ran this idea by my dad and he liked it. Like I didn't have any money to fund it. He was going to like maybe throw in a couple thousand to help me fund it. And I had no idea like how to do apps or anything. This was just like a very blue sky idea. Like, oh yeah, I want to build this video app because for me, I want to make like a large impact on people's lives. And for me, like I could possibly quit my job and maybe start my own film production company and like work with
Mm,
lots of brands. But I was like, you know what? The future is mobile. And
mm,
like through my roles in these jobs, I saw how big video storytelling was becoming, which
mm,
is why I'm like, okay, this app, I think at scale, it will make a larger impact than just having like a Vancouver film company.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. And so, is this your first app? And did you have any? Yeah, you talked about how it wasn't Life Lapse before. Like, So you had other concepts, and like what kind of led to you creating Life Lapse?
Yeah, so Life Lapse was so originally it was actually supposed to be a pregnancy time lapse app, which is so crazy. Like I look
Awesome.
back at the original mock-ups and like, holy hell, like it is completely like done a 180 of what it was supposed to be.
Mm.
Um, so Life Lapse was originally supposed to be like this, yeah, like a pregnancy time lapse app, or I'll show you a video here. Though if you're listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see. But essentially, it's let's say you're traveling around the world and you want to take a picture of you in each city, and then when you play
Mm.
back, it's like it's you're in the same spot, like but the cities are changing.
Right, right,
That's
right.
what I thought people would use it for.
Interesting.
You can see an example here.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, and I guess that kind of goes with that Instagram like travel culture, like something that people find cool to like capture all of their adventures. Yeah, that's
I
neat.
thought so too, but like nobody was using it for that because maybe like they weren't traveling or they weren't pregnant. So like what I mean by the pregnancy time lapse is you'd
Mm,
like take a photo every week as your belly grows.
right.
And we have features in the app to help you like line up so that you're in the same spot each time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but people just started using it for stop motion and we've just kind of run with it and now it's going really well.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, so what processes did you go through to try and develop this app? Like, do you have a coding or developing background yourself, or like, how did you actually get that put together?
I have zero coding background.
Okay.
I could make
Awesome.
a piece of text bold and italic, and that is about it.
Wow. Okay.
Um, so basically, yeah, I've basically been just throwing spaghetti at the wall this whole time. Like, obviously, I lean on my amazing community for support, but in terms of like finding my dev team, I went on Upwork. Do you know Upwork?
I've started to hear about it actually just through YouTubers, and I hadn't heard about it before. Yeah.
So basically, Upwork is like a marketplace of freelancers where people can go and they pitch a project and then freelancers will apply. And it's kind of like Airbnb
Wow.
where you can see, so I can see how many hours they've worked, how have other companies rated this individual while working with them.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I put my project out there,
Hmm.
like a very basic version of what I wanted.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I interviewed this one company. They're called Umbrella. They're based in Russia. I'm still using them
Wow.
today.
Oh my.
Um, and yeah, it was a hit. Like a lot of people applied. However, like this company stood out to me because they crafted an actual like personalized cover letter, which to me seems like a no-brainer. But
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of riffraff on these platforms with people who just like want to make a quick buck.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want someone like that. I wanted somebody who's like showed interest in what we're trying to achieve.
Right.
Um, yeah, so that's how I found Upwork. I mean, my dev team through Upwork.
And is Upwork a little bit more, I guess, sophisticated than like a Fiverr in that sense? Like it's more of like a you're trying to find someone you can partner with versus like a one-off kind of gig.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's really neat.
I've used Upwork for many things like
Wow.
App Store optimization, my virtual assistant, and everything's done through Upwork. And what the
Nice.
beauty of it is like all the payments and everything happen through Upwork. So
Okay.
and like they have really awesome like time tracking tools. So you
Mm-hmm.
know, when my developers start working for the week, like they check in and they check out, and then it basically just bills me at the end of the week. And you can
Nice.
see what they're working on. Like it takes
Yeah.
screen grabs. I like it. I feel like it's a great platform for people who maybe aren't um like I don't have a dev background, but if I
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to
yeah.
like check on what they're doing, I could get somebody to like come consult and see. So
Wow. That's amazing. So your team's based out of Russia. Um, wow. Like, like I feel like that leads into totally different questions. Like, how do you like develop that trust? I guess to be like, here's my app idea. I need you guys to do it for me. How do I know you won't run off and take it? Like, if you yourself are not. a developer? Like,
Yeah, so a lot of people ask that, and
yeah.
my answer is it takes a lot of money to develop an idea, like
Okay.
execute the development, like tens
Okay.
of thousands of dollars. So I honestly think, well, one, sorry, NDAs, you get them to sign legal
Oh,
documents. So I had
okay.
a lawyer draft all this up before I like gave the full-fledged details of what I wanted. I had
Okay.
mock-ups of the app. So basically I built all the wireframes in Photoshop. So
Right.
when you click on this button, it takes you here. If you click on this button, it takes you there. And I had like the whole roadmap because like I'm a very visual person and I had a very
Mm-hmm.
clear idea of what I wanted, like a very clean, minimal, simple, like user-friendly app. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so I like basically spoon-fed that to them just because I
Yeah.
wanted to make it very clear for because you want to get an accurate quote, right? If you're just
Right.
providing, oh, here's my idea, then it's like how many screens are there? Like you don't really get an accurate scope of work.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And then they come back with like obviously a lot of questions. I'm like, okay, well, did you think about this button and where it'll take you, or what about you're missing something in this component?
Right, right.
So like kind of flush it out, and then that was like a 3 month, I would say 2 to 3 month process of just flushing out every detail, and then we went into development.
So it's definitely not an overnight.
What was the original question?
No, you did cover a bit. I was just kind of talking about how do you actually like develop the trust to go like, okay, this company in a different country, you're gonna help me develop my app as a non techie or as a non coding person. Like I always wondered how people reach out to other people to develop their idea and how those people wouldn't just run off with it. Yeah,
Um, yeah, so we had like video conferencing calls. I am like a huge fan of Google Hangouts and doing video conference calls versus just regular phone calls. I think like
right.
seeing somebody, it just like adds that trust. And
So
also
true.
this dev firm, like you can see all the projects they've worked on through Upwork, which is a huge trust component because I can see
Uh,
like you can't just add 20 projects and say, oh, I worked here and there. It's like, no, you have to be physically built by this company or for this company in order to add it to your project list. And you can see the reviews and everything. So
gotcha.
honestly, I lucked out. Like I've heard some horror stories of things just going completely downhill or like the communication isn't clear. Uh, so yeah, I've been really fortunate in that area.
Wow, that's so cool. That's very interesting. Um, yeah, so you have a team in Russia. And what led you then to go to Dragon's Den? And can you tell us about your journey?
Yeah, so I launched the app in September of 2017. And then basically a couple months later, I saw like there were auditions for Dragon's Den. So I went and auditioned in Vancouver, and I basically showed them like the original concept of the app, which was like the travel thing and the pregnancy time lapse. Um, yeah, and basically I got a call back, and I got asked to go film in the Toronto CBC studios in May of 2018.
Okay.
So basically, at this point, I had launched the company. It was getting downloads. I'd say maybe like I don't know, I forget, like maybe 5 to 7,000 downloads a month, which is like pretty good. But people weren't sticking around in the app
Mm,
because like they didn't really have a purpose for it.
got it.
So basically, when I was going to Dragon's Den, I was essentially in panic mode because I had this like cool product and I had like I had users, but honestly, downloads is such a vanity metric in I think any tech space because it
Right.
doesn't measure your success. Like what it's like how many daily active users do you have and how many monthly active users and like what's your revenue? Those are more um I would say metrics with substance, and
Right.
I knew they would bring that up. So I basically panicked
Oh,
and
wow.
pitched this pivot idea. I don't know. Did you actually watch the episode?
I did. And to be fair, because I myself, like, I love how do I put it? I love the idea of the tech world. I'm into marketing and social media. Obviously, you use the apps, but in terms of actually creating that, that's an area I won't even claim to be an expert on. So I was just trying to like figure out what you were saying and what they were asking you. I think like Michelle or someone was asking you a bunch of like techie questions, and I was just trying to understand like the dialogue back and forth. So it was very interesting, and yeah, and I was trying to see like what your app was, because obviously the video there and what I see it now looks kind of different. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, like, unfortunately, with Dragon's Den, like, they are going to, I was in the Dragon's Den for 45 minutes just getting hammered with questions.
Wow.
They edited it down to whatever, like a 5 to 7 minute segment. So, like, there's a lot of stuff missing. And I had a video demo of what the app was capable of making, but
Right.
they only showed the demo that I did, which, like, I'm just like kicking myself that that was what I chose to do, because like it just looks like any old regular video app. When you see it, it's like you don't see it that it's capable of stop motion, like the pregnancy time lapse, the travel. Well, the travel one just showcased a bit, but yeah, that was like really annoying.
So the editing process affects, yeah, because okay, I guess I have a few questions around that. So you got there, you said this is when the app like officially kind of launched, and then when they got to those kind of key metric questions for the app, that's when you said you panicked. Was it because it was still, I guess, trying to find its, you're still trying to find the place for the app in regards to those questions they were asking you?
When I say I panicked, it was more on like what was my pitch going to be and where was I
Ah,
going to take this company to have this valuation. Also, in
right.
the tech space, like it's a standard valuation when you're starting out that you have like a $2 million valuation. This is what I
Mm.
hear in all the like accelerators and like advisory groups that I'm in. So I just like, I'm new to tech. I don't really know what I'm doing. I just see what other people are doing and apply it, which is like so naive of me. But then when I go there, I'm like, okay, there's no way where I'm at now is worth 2 million. And I knew that. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I pitched that pivot idea of Life Lapse is basically going to be a platform where brands can hire my users to create their own videos. And that's what
Okay.
they ripped apart. They didn't actually rip apart my app, what it is now, which is like a stop motion video app.
Okay, it was just where they thought you were going with it.
Because like, well, how are you going to make money off of this? And that's was like, okay, well, we're actually pivoting to this. And they're like, this is an agency. This sucks. Like, you suck. And then it
Wow.
was, yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of like, I don't know, like the nerves and everything, I can only imagine like when you're like in that room and there's like, I don't know, was there six people and they're just like intense and like asking you questions? Like, I'm sure that whole experience must be wild. So, yeah.
I was crying on the inside, but honestly, I just like stood there and took it from them, which is, I think I mentioned this in the article that I wrote, is one of my biggest like learnings from that experience was to not be coachable, because everyone's like, oh, you got to be coachable. Like, that's what I researched. So I'm just sitting there being like, yeah, thanks for your feedback. I appreciate it. Like, I naturally have resting bitch face. So, like, if I'm not actively trying to, like, do, like, a smize type of thing,
Mm.
I look really angry. So I was, like, making an effort to look kind of happy, which, like, turned against me because they're like, nothing's going through your head what we're telling you. And I forget if that
Uh,
was included or not, but Arlene did, like, she lashed out at me pretty hard, and it was really, like, it was bad, but they didn't include that part in the final edit, but they included my reaction. So
right.
yeah.
Right. Wow, that's so interesting. And like, what was your takeaway from such an experience? Like, okay, so your idea of the app was a certain way. You kind of had a valuation based on what you've seen others do. I guess when you walked away from that experience, what were you actually hoping, um, well, what were you thinking would have been like, I guess, a normal valuation for that app for where you were at, and like what changed from that point on? Like, what did you take away from that experience?
Well, when I left the studio, one, I just like couldn't stop crying. It was like so embarrassing. My
Um,
mom was like, she came, my mom and my aunt came to the studio with me and they were like waiting outside.
wow.
My mom's a photographer, so she like had her camera, was like taking
Oh
pictures of me,
no.
turned around the corner with the camera crew, and I was just like, stop taking photos.
Oh
And I just
my gosh.
found, honestly, I felt like the biggest piece because I was just like, I just got ripped apart on national television.
Hmm.
My app isn't successful. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, they really actually got to me for, I would say, a solid 2 weeks. And which
Wow.
is so stupid. Like, this is a TV show. It's supposed to be dramatic, which I knew that, but when you're in there and you're like putting like your heart and soul out into the world and what you've been really like working hard on for the past year for me, and just
Mm-hmm.
to have it completely ripped apart, like you lose sight of this is a TV show and like don't listen to.
Definitely. Yeah, and it's kind of hard. I mean, I feel like this when I was starting Okiki too. Like, it's kind of hard, even though you aren't your business, like, it's kind of hard to separate your feelings from what people say, like, as you're trying to grow, right? And as you're trying to actually make something for yourself. So, yeah, I find that you do end up taking it personally to some extent, and it's yeah, it takes a bit to like recuperate and be like, okay, like I'm not a failure in spite of like maybe where this is at. Like that's not who I actually am. It's just this is the situation of what I'm working on. But that would be a lot, honestly. And what yeah, like what so that was your takeaway from that experience. Like what did you then how did you get out of that funk, I guess? Like what helped you get out of that funk and go, okay, you know what? Even though that was embarrassing, I'm going to try this again because, this is something I actually believe in.
Well, I think like the hardest part of it was they were telling me things I already knew. Like my
Mm,
app wasn't successful at the time, and like everyone has a different definition of success. For me, it's
right,
like I couldn't live off of this income because it was so low.
right.
But basically, after the show, like I I've always been listening to my users, but I kept putting Life Lapse as this like again pregnancy travel time lapse type of app, and it's like no, people are using it for stop motion. You need to start marketing it as that.
Hmm.
So once I started doing that and like putting features in specifically to help people with stop motion creation, that's when basically things like just started working, and we changed our pricing model. So before you could like unlock all the features for like $5, all the pro features. You
Wow.
could use the like the free version of the app, of course, but there's like if you wanted the watermark removed, for example, it was $5 to remove. And
Hmm.
it's like holy shit, like I cannot scale this because the lifetime value per customer is so low.
Mm,
Um, so essentially like my now tech advisor, he's like try subscription, and I was just like what, like no one's gonna do that. Barely people don't even want to pay $5 for the pro features.
right,
Like
right, right.
people hate paying for apps.
Hmm.
But I think once I like switched my mentality on, you know what, this is actually helping people save a lot of time. If you're shooting a stop motion video with a DSLR camera, you have to have like a DSLR, you need to import it, edit them in Lightroom, then you have to bring it into like Final Cut Pro, or you can use like professional stop motion software, which is like $500.
Right.
Once I just like saw the value in what I was actually providing, and we switched
Hmm.
to subscription based, and we also added like a 7-day free trial for people to try the pro features, that's
Hmm.
when things just started basically working. And we just have been reiterating the app with like since summer is when we switched over to subscription and like more pivoted to just be a stop motion app. Yeah, like we've seen significant growth from that.
Wow. So there's obviously a significant amount of people who are trying to do stop motion photos or videos. Like, because I would say prior to like seeing your app and seeing your concept, I'm like, I didn't know there was like a real audience for that. Like, I know there's some bloggers that I've seen that do it, but I didn't realize it was that popular. So that's when it changed. And when did you start making those decisions? Was that like right after? Was that a couple months after? Or
After what?
after the Dragon's Den experience?
Oh, I'd say it was a couple months after. But
Cool.
yeah, there was like, I remember being at the BC Tech Summit, and I was I was supposed to be part of this accelerator. Ironically, the accelerator went under. But
Oh
through this
wow.
accelerator, I was able to have like a little booth set up at the
Yeah.
Tech Summit.
Yeah.
I remember just being there and like honestly feeling like the biggest imposer ever, because I was just like, I need to quit this business because this sucks. It's not working. It's not earning money. People aren't using it. Oh, it was just so bad. But that's when I talked to my now tech advisor, and he's like, switch to subscription. And that's when we started making all of our changes after that. And yeah, it's been uphill since then, for the
That's
most
amazing.
part.
Okay, wow, that's so cool. And what else did you do, like mentally, to kind of reset yourself, I guess, from that experience as well? You changed the app, and then for yourself personally, how did you, yeah, what did you have to do to kind of get your confidence back after such an experience?
um, what did I do? I feel like I went into like a dark hole for 2 weeks and like didn't really talk to anyone, just like took some time to like self-reflect. I don't know. I think when you talk to people and they encourage you to keep going, that's what I did. Like, I
Mm,
don't know. I can't think
yeah,
specifically on what I did. I just know I felt like shit, and I just kept going because
yeah,
like this one reality TV show is not going to define my career, and I'm not going to quit because of it. And
right.
and yeah, I was just like, screw this. I'm going to show them. Like, I'm going to prove them right that I can do this.
Wow.
And I
Yeah.
would say like that definitely fueled me to, I don't want to say prove them wrong. I like to say prove them right that I did have something good going.
Right. That's really interesting to hear because I think for the people who watch those shows, like you only see, the people they choose, right? And like those successes. So it was really cool to like see through your article someone who's gone through it who didn't necessarily get a deal, but who still worked on it and believed in their project enough to continue to make it a success. So I was doing some research. And I saw that I think it was through your blog. I don't know. I know before you said it's not like something official you have going on, but it said you had like developed a second app.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still something you have. It was called Zoomy. Uh, would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah. So basically, after the Dragon's Den thing, I was, or like just even that whole spring period last year, I knew people weren't really using Life Lapse. And one of the biggest challenges with stop motion and like just the app in general is it does take a bit of work to produce a video. Like, it's not just like a boomerang where you just take one clip and then it's done.
Right.
Stop motion requires things like a tripod, like
Mm-hmm.
consistent lighting, all these things, a bit of education on like how to practice your technique. Um, so I had this idea for Zoomy, and it's basically like, if anyone has like a photography film background, it's like basically a Ken Burns effect uh, as app. I researched in the App Store that didn't exist yet, and with Instagram stories being huge, I'm like, this could be like a cool effect for people to apply to their stories.
Nice.
And I wanted to create it. It's like a very simple app. It was very low budget, and I basically just did it to test like what I have learned from Life Lapse, to see if I could create an app that people like needed zero effort to just make a video quickly.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been okay. Like, it's not as successful as Life Lapse is now. I still
Mm.
make improvements to it. But yeah.
But is it easier the second time around? Like, given that you've probably learned so much from your first major app, to kind of go into it?
figuring out my revenue model and like marketing it and launching it, all that stuff I knew, and it definitely was not as overwhelming. I would say now, yeah, I do need to give it a little more attention because I'm just spread so thin with everything going on in Life Lapse.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the reminder.
Well, I just noticed that. I was like, wow, she's on to other things. All right, awesome. Good for her. Yeah, for sure. And what is your advice to any young people, and particularly women who want to enter this space? Did you find like, because we have like a little bit of a tech incubator in Saskatoon called Collabs, and we just did a women in tech panel like just last week. And there's a few girls trying to come up with their own stuff, but do you find there's a lot of women in the tech scene in Vancouver or in general where you've kind of found yourself in as a result of working on this app, or have you ever found that to be like a barrier at all? Like, what is your advice to people?
I'm involved in probably every female entrepreneur group in Vancouver, so I tend to
Nice.
go to those events a lot. So I don't feel like there is a gap. I mean, obviously there is, like the tech industry is definitely more male dominated, but because I choose to surround myself with like females in tech, I don't personally feel that.
Right.
Um, I am hiring for like an iOS developer now to start building my team in Vancouver, and
Yeah.
I would say like 20 out of the 21 applicants are all male.
Right.
And it's like I want to support females in tech, but it's like if no one's here to apply, I don't really know, you know?
How to do that? Yeah. So it's also like actually being there in the first place is probably the first
Yeah, I would love to
step
see more like female developers.
for sure. That's awesome. And I guess, yeah, my last question is what is one thing that inspires you to keep going after your purpose and your company with Life Labs?
I wanted, like, what inspires me is building a company on my terms, having a flexible schedule. I get to work with my dog at home every day. I want financial freedom. I want to travel when I want to. I have many lofty goals for myself.
Yes.
And then like on the business side, like I really want to make stop motion easy for people. So, millions of people download stop motion video apps yearly.
Wow.
So my goal is to like get Life Lapse as the #1 stop motion app, because like we're not #1 right now. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Hmm. It's the first stop motion app I've ever heard of, so
Really?
for sure.
Other
Yeah.
ones, I would say we're the only one who's building like a brand around it. Other people have
Right.
them. They just sit in the app store. They don't have much of a presence on social media. I would say their
Right.
demographic for their users are a little different than what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to make this like, I'm basically trying to make stop motion cool.
Yeah.
Like traditionally
Sure.
stop motion, like people make, Lego movies or like claymation videos, and like that's super
Yeah.
cool and everything, but I am not trying to achieve, like I'm not trying to target that audience. I want to go
Right.
after, people who have like a Shopify account who want to build cool video ads to target back to their shop. They can use their
Mm-hmm.
app to create like really amazing product videos. Uh,
That's awesome. Oh, thanks so much, Sarah. Like, I learned so much, and it's just been great to interview you, honestly. I feel like we could talk for a couple more hours, but yeah, no, thank you so much for your time and again for being the first one on my show. So,
Woo!
looking
I'm
forward to
excited for
publishing
you.
this episode.
I
For
can't wait
sure.
to see who else you get on here.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much.
No worries.